It's incredibly useful.
It's going to make the biggest difference to your cooking.
That looks amazing. Hello. Today we're going to introduce you to the 15 pieces of cookware that you really need in your kitchen. I'm Nicola. I'm the founder of Sous Chef, and I've been working with cookware and ingredients for the past 12 years. I'm here with cookware expert Kristin. She's been working with cookware for almost a decade and has been trying, testing, cooking at home pretty much every day with some of the world's best cookware. I'm also here with Ross. He's our in-house chef, and he's going to be preparing some lunch, showing how these different pieces of cookware are used, and probably also demonstrating some awesome knife skills. So Kristin, the first thing we want to start with is knives. And that's the biggest question for any cook, is which knife should I start with?
I would say you probably want to start with 2 knives.
Yeah.
We've had slight arguments, 2 to 3, but I would say 2 to start. So you have your core workhorse knife, which would be some kind of version of a chef's knife. So a chef's knife is a more Western style shape. Yeah. So you have this is the chef's knife. It's quite a long blade. This one is about 20 centimeters, which is kind of standard, but it's a workhorse. It will do basically everything in your kitchen. And then you just have a lot of different versions of they will do the same thing, but it's just up to preference what kind of shape you like.
So this is my knife, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a Gyuto. It's a Japanese style chef's knife, essentially. It has a bit more of a pointed tip, and this one specifically has quite a wide blade. And then you have a Santoku. Again, it will do the exact same kind of jobs. Santokus are often slightly shorter blade. They have a more rounded tip. And work very well for the sort of up and down chopping motion rather than a rocking motion, which these are excellent for because you have that sort of pointed tip.
So what's the second knife?
The second knife is a bread knife because really you can't really replace a bread knife with anything else in the kitchen. This specifically is a French knife from a brand called Opinel. You usually get a slightly longer blade with a bread knife. You have the serrated teeth to make sure you can cut through crusty loaves and breads and things like that.
Yeah. And one of the worst things in the kitchen is a blunt serrated knife that someone's had for 30 years and they just can't cut any sourdough at all.
Yes.
It just slips off. And when you actually get a sharp one, then it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
If you're using your knives every day in the kitchen, the next thing you need is a board.
Yes.
So how do you choose which is the right board for you?
So again, like everything in the kitchen is very much down to preference and how you do your cooking. Personally, I do really like having a sort of stationary bigger board, like a butcher's block or a carving board. So we have this one which is made from teak wood, and we have a beech wood one over there that Ross is using, which is nice to have a sort of stationary board and a bigger workspace in your kitchen. And then we also have this smaller, very lightweight board that's easy to sort of move around, or if you're doing other things. I also like having a separate board sometimes for a sort of onion and garlic and very smelly things. That's going to be easier to move and sort of wash off afterwards.
Okay. So this is the lightweight board. I have one like this in my kitchen.
Yep.
Usually turned the other way up.
Yeah. This one has a sort of Jew screw if you're doing carving. But then you have just a completely flat side for just your regular chopping board. That's probably how I would use it most of the time as well.
And both of these look quite different on the top. Tell me about this end grain. Why do you want that?
So end grain is pretty much the best thing you can have with a knife. So when you have the end grain of the wood, it's basically, if you think of a tree trunk like this, you've basically cut it and you're using that sort of cut surface on the top. So when you cut down with your knife, the grains kind of split a little bit with the knife and then they close back up. So it's going to be really, really durable. It's also means it's kind on your knife. It's not going to like damage your blade or anything, but it's going to last so much longer than another board, and you'll get usually less marks as well. This one has a very nice herringbone pattern. You also see the kind of checkerboard pattern on the end grain boards. So end grain is definitely like the sort of top of the boards when you're getting chopping boards.
And then I also use this all the time. You can see some knife marks in it.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly lightweight, and you can't really tell that on camera. But it's probably about the same as a teacup, or I don't know. Definitely not more than a few hundred grams, I'd say. So it's really easy to move around the kitchen, wash up really quickly. Okay, so next onto pans. There's probably 2 different types of frying pan.
For frying pans, again, similarly to the knives, if you're going to spend extra money, I would spend it on frying pan rather than a saucepan, because it's going to make the biggest difference to your cooking and the kind of materials. So I like having a non-stick pan and a non-stick pan, and that can be a couple different versions. So a non-stick pan is great for, obviously ease of cleaning up and everything. One of our favorites here is the Scan Pan Technic pan. Has an amazing non-stick. You can even use metal utensils with it. We have, this is a multiply pan, so we have an aluminium core. So it heats up really evenly throughout the entire pan. And then it's got stainless steel and titanium coating. This is a special one as well.
Yeah.
But that you can cook it on really high heat. If you have ruined a pan like that, I don't know what you've done. They're almost indestructible. And we also have this one, which is a collaboration that we've done and designed here at Sous Chef together with one of our very loved brands, Netherton Foundry. So it's similar to a frying pan. I quite like this because it can be used like a frying pan. It has a big base on the bottom for the sort of searing and frying, but it also has tall sides if you're doing saucy things and need to stir without things spilling over. Yep. And you have a little helper hand when it gets heavy, so you can actually lift it. This is made from spun iron, so it works similarly to like cast iron and carbon steel. And you do need to season it, make sure it's super dry. So it takes a little bit more maintenance. It's definitely worth it. And over time, the more you season it, the more you use it, it will kind of create almost like a naturally non-stick.
So I've grabbed another pan here. This is a super heavy pan, and that's cast iron. That's really heavyweight. That's also for high heat, and that will really last a lifetime. Very similar to these Netherton Foundry pans in how they cook, but with a much thicker base. And they also need looking after and seasoning. But these both could be pans for life and really beautiful things. And over time, that non-stick coating that you get, it's not really non-stick, but from the seasoning, it will release really nicely. You can kind of use for omelettes and pancakes and things like that you would traditionally maybe have used a non-stick pan.
Yeah.
And then on to saucepans. So everyone needs a saucepan, right?
Yeah.
Cooking pasta.
Absolutely.
You've got to have a saucepan. You probably ragu, and you probably would use this type of pan. So tell us about how you choose those.
So for saucepans, like I said, it makes less of a difference than a frying pan with heat. So this specifically, also ones both you and I have at home. These are also multiply. It has an aluminium core, which means you get a very even heat distribution through the entire pan. It will heat up quickly and it will cool down quickly.
Heats up the sides.
Yeah, the sides. But it's not just the sort of base, it's throughout the entire pan, and you can kind of see it on the side of the pan. I like this one as well because it has a bit of a pouring lip. So if you're pouring things out, it's much easier to pour than if you compare it to like a straight side. So both this one and this one just have a sort of straight side like that. So this one will pour out really nicely, has a very comfortable handle. I like this handle. You get some like thinner handles. Again, it's preference, but I find these handles, they have little divots for your fingers as well, so they're very comfortable even when they get heavy to hold. And then obviously you have your bigger pans, like this very lightweight, like a ceramic non-stick Dutch oven. So again, this one is just for any big batch cookings. This one has little divots in the lid, so it's sort of self-basting. So when your condensation reaches the lid, it will drip down evenly over your food. So it's excellent for slow cooks. This one can go in the oven as well.
So finally, let's move on to the tools and utensils that you might need in the kitchen. What have you picked?
So there's obviously so many different tools that you can have in your kitchen and gadgets and everything. I feel like the core that you should start with and build from is your tongs, your spoon, a whisk, and a spatula. Then we have a little bit of extras here. But your tongs, you can use them for almost anything, just turning vegetables, meat, pick up like spaghetti in a pan or pasta, toss salads and things like that. You have your classic spoon. So this is an olive wood spoon that we've chosen. You get lots of different materials. This one has a little corner piece as well, so you can easily scrape and get to all the corners of your pan when you stir. But yeah, just a classic spoon to whatever you prefer. We have a spatula as well. So this is a stainless steel spatula. Again, like the spoon, it will come in lots of different materials. Just make sure if you use a non-stick pan, you can't really use metal in non-stick pans, apart from the one we did show earlier, but just double check. So it might be worth having a stainless steel, or you might want to have a silicone or a nylon or a wooden spatula to your preference. This one also has a little bit of flex. And then you also have a whisk. Again, you get lots of different types of whisks and specialty whisks, but for one whisk, just a good balloon whisk is great for obviously whisking like batters and egg whites and things like that, or whisking the bechamel sauce for the lasagna that we've made.
And then we've picked a few different things that we think are just really special in the kitchen.
Yeah.
These are some of our favourite picks as the kind of optional extras, right? But that make everyday cooking a bit more of a joy. So let's start off with a spoon. I mean, everyone needs a spoon in the kitchen. Absolutely. I have a whole set of, in fact, you can see my cutlery behind the stove, lots of teaspoons ready for tasting. But I've also got lots of these. So why did you originally pick them?
So the Gistura spoons, which these are called, they are inspired by antique spoons, which tend to have a more pointed tip. They have a bowl. This one specifically is a perfect tablespoon measure. It has a nice flat top and extra edges. So with the edges, you can get into scraping at the bottom of your pans. It's excellent for basting. You have the pointed tip to make it easy to pour out.
Yeah, I'm going to show that a little bit. Now I've got olive oil, which obviously always has a good pour in the top anyway. However, imagine this was a salad dressing or something else where you just wanted to lift up a little bit basting, but really wants to pour it delicately over whatever you're cooking. And look at the way it pours from the tip. So it's really precise, that really fine drizzle, exactly where you want it to go. And then exactly as Kristin said, when you lift it up, it's got that deep base. And so actually you can really easily get sauces and liquids out of tight corners, which I promise, if you've ever tried to do that with your normal tablespoon, it's a disaster. It never works. Next one. These are also something that looks a bit crazy, but very functional, made out of stainless steel. I also have, I think this is my set of them from my drawer. But anyway, yes. Share how you use one of these.
So these are the chef's presses, or as a general name, it's a type of cooking weight. So in general, you see a lot of this cast iron weights, and they end up being quite heavy. These are made and designed by a chef based in San Francisco called Bruce Hill. He just felt that the usual weights that he got, they weren't good enough. They were too heavy. They trapped a lot of steam, so you didn't get that kind of crispy finish that you wanted. So he added all these vents on. He's got, as you can see, lots of different sizes, and the different sizes are also different weights.
And so I've used these for so many things.
Yeah.
One is bacon. If you're cooking bacon on a pan, it holds it completely flat against the base. It sizzles very gently. It gets incredibly crispy. So yeah, I use these, I'd probably say every few days, certainly, a lot when I'm cooking. And then finally, well, actually almost finally, we've got a thermometer. And I'm going to share why I love these. It basically means that you never have to worry about whether something's overcooked or undercooked again. Everything I cook, I quickly put the thermometer in, and it'll tell me exactly the temperature it's at. It comes with a little guide to what temperatures things cook at, but very quickly you'll know them off by heart. Yeah. And then you can just, if you're serving a really juicy piece of chicken and people are like, oh, is this actually cooked? Although it's really delicious, you don't have to worry because you know it's exactly the right temperature. And that's why this is just such a good gadget. It's really fast, called the super fast Thermopen. And so that means that it takes a few seconds rather than 10, 20, 30 seconds for other thermometers, which actually by that point, your oven's gone cold, your meat's overcooked, whatever it is. So this is a super gadget. And the final thing I snuck in, which is this a utensil, kind of utensil, maybe a tool, a kitchen bowl. And they're really simple, but actually having a great big stack of these in the kitchen is incredibly useful. Every time I'm cooking, whenever I'm chopping vegetables, I'll make sure I have a bowl like that on the side. I'll put any onion skins into it. I'll put any, the end bit of the broccoli that might be a little bit gnarly in there. And then I'll be able to take that straight out to my compost bin outside. And then also if I'm cooking anything and dicing, anything that I'm cooking, I can put straight into a bowl. That's then the prep bowl. So obviously you'll use these for baking and whisking, but actually just day-to-day cooking, a bowl is pretty much, I think, one of the most useful tools in the kitchen for a chef. So Ross, how's it looking?
Yeah, it's looking good. I think we're about ready to serve. Now for the final touch, just a little bit more parmesan over the top.
I'm gonna dig in the middle with all the goodness.
Oh, it's so juicy, look at that.
A little bit aside.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much, Ross. That's amazing.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
So this is our selection of the key pieces of cookware that you really need to make every day in the kitchen of absolute joy. I'd love to hear what your selection would be too. Please let us know. Leave a comment with what are your favourite knives? What's your favourite pan? What's that tool or utensil that you just can't live without? Thank you.